What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave Week in Review. This is our Saturday show where we like to go back through the week, take a look at all of the Newswave videos, take a look at your comments, and respond to them. It's a lot of fun to see what you guys have to say about the different topics we go through. Also, if you missed a day, it's kind of an easy way to get caught up quickly for some of the big events that took place throughout this week. We also have Spawncast tonight, so make sure you stop by 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have a couple different people on there. Rich from Review Tech will be on there, and then we have Miss Click as well. So it's going to be fun. Make sure you stop by. But for today, guys, let's get started. Monday, we talked about Sakurai returning to develop the new Smash Bros. For the Switch. Sakurai has pushed himself to the brink in the past when developing previous iterations of the series, so fans are hoping he takes it a little easier this time. Joel says, Smash most likely will be a September or October release. Hashtag Smash vs. Red Dead 2. Now, I do think in this case, Smash will be a September release. I think it's going to be an easy way for them to sell the online service day one without any issues. Smash has this really well done online service behind it, and you get dedicated servers and everything for when you play online, and maybe lagless, or at least minimal lag, I should say, for your game and everything. And maybe they even go a step further where they hold full tournaments and everything online. There's a lot of stuff they can do with that online service for it to make sense for people to not even think about spending $20 for the entire year. Smash is an easy way to kick off that online service. Then you add things like Splatoon 2 and ARMS to that, to the mix. Easy to sell that. And I think they want to also get it out before Red Dead. Now, I don't think Red Dead Redemption 2 would affect sales as much, because I do think people who want Smash might not be as interested in Red Dead, since Smash is kind of like an esports fighting game, and Red Dead is an open world style, in this case, like almost like a GTA, but with cowboys. It's a bit different when it comes to demographics. I do think they overlap some, though. Pretty much Smash Bros. Is mainstream, and I think at this point, Red Dead Redemption is also mainstream when it comes to games. So while I don't think it would affect Smash Bros. Sales either way, because fans are going to buy that game no matter what. People will double up if they need to. They'll get Red Dead, and then they'll also get Smash Bros. That month. But it seems like September is a good month, like I said, for Nintendo to kind of slide in Smash Bros., get that out ahead of the holiday rush, and then have something like Pokemon ready in November, kind of a 1-2 punch. October is the one month I'm trying to figure out what release they'll have ready. That might be where Fire Emblem kind of works in, and that would make sense to have a September, October, and then November release. I don't know if they'll do anything in December, because last year they had Xenoblade 2, and that was barely in December. That was December 1st, and it was very close to November. So I'll be curious what their December release might be. Maybe they don't even really put a big game there. They just want everything out ahead of the holiday rush. But that seems like a pretty good holiday there. Sprinkle in some indie games, maybe some smaller third-party developed games, then maybe a few AA games from them, something like Yoshi, and they'll be in good shape, I think. Tuesday, we went over the Nintendo Switch 5.0.0 update and talked about a job listing for Final Fantasy VII Remake that raised concerns about how far along the game actually is. Barley says, FF7 Remake Trrouble, that was all I could stare at the whole video. Yeah, so if you didn't see it, which probably a lot of you guys said it because people commented, I forgot the R. It was pretty late at night. I remember I was working on, I think it was like 1:30 in the morning when I started rendering it, so it was a late night for that. And sometimes when it gets a little later, I start to, you start to miss some stuff, and I missed it. I left the R out. So what I decided to do is I will put 2 R's in the title today for FF7 Trrouble, just to, even things out. And then I guess we'll see how many people comment that I put too many R's in before they get to this part of the video. So that'll be fun to see. Neshomancer says, honestly, I don't get the desire for Final Fantasy VII Remake. The original game is on Steam for $12 before tax, and you get the whole game. The remake is episodic, so you'll be getting charged more money in the long run. Sure, you get a fresh coat of paint, but Final Fantasy VII is a classic. Its quality isn't affected by its graphics. People still love the original Zelda and The Link to the Past, and play them to this day without huge graphical overhauls. So really, I'd just say get the Steam version if graphics are that big of a deal for you. The modders have managed to help with that from what I understand. Seems like a better deal all around, as you can get the whole game now for cheap. So Final Fantasy VII Remake is technically that. Technically it's a new coat of paint. It looks like they're changing up the gameplay entirely. It seems like you're going to be more of an action-based RPG style game, so it's going to control differently, and I think a lot of us want to see this because there are some scenes from Final Fantasy VII that I have no idea how they're going to be able to remake in this newer version with much better looking visuals. Some stuff back then they could kind of get away with. Like there was a scene, I don't want to ruin too much because there are people who are probably going to be playing through it for the first time, in which case you're right, you should get the Steam version to get set up now, because there are going to be some scenes in there that are going to be a little hard to replicate in this newer style. They might either have to skip them altogether, or maybe just talk about them off screen. There was one scene where Cloud was taken over completely and just starts beating Aerith left and right. Just slapping her and punching her in a crater. So I don't know how they would remake that well, because she took a beating there. So I don't know, things like that. There are other parts as well throughout the game that if you start talking about, obviously it's spoiler territory, but there are some things I want to see them try to remake. And I think that, coupled with the nostalgia for a lot of us, coupled with seeing the game through like a brand new, like fresh eyes and everything, that's where a lot of us are excited. We've wanted to see it remade for a while. Episodic thing, yeah, that kind of turns people off a bit, but I just want to see what they can do. I'd like the idea of changing the gameplay to something new. It's going to basically be like playing a game that's based on Final Fantasy VII, I think is the best way you can go about it. But it's pretty obvious why it's exciting to people. Nostalgia plays a very large role here, and there are some things that have been retconned and stuff, and a lot of us who are really into Final Fantasy VII when it came out and have heard these rumblings want to see how they're going to, I guess, redo this in, well, what are almost better than, obviously at this point, better than the FMV CGI quality they were working with back then. Wednesday, we talked about the Switch breaking a record held by the Wii in Germany for most sales in the first year. The Switch passed the Wii's first year after selling 650,000 consoles. We also went over a listing on Amazon from Ubisoft themselves for a possible 2018 Splinter Cell game. Demon1337 says, wow, I actually didn't think the Switch was selling that great here in Germany. Yeah, I really couldn't tell you how well it's selling from a, obviously, first-hand perspective. If some of you guys live in Germany, I'm curious what the marketing is like there. Is there like a lot of marketing, whether it's on TV or billboards or in-game, or like, let's say you go into a game section at like, I don't know, a convenience store, whatever you have there. I don't know if like Walmart or Kmart, well, not Kmart, but anything like Best Buy is over there, or you have your own kind of chain there. Is there like really good advertising there in those kind of sections? Do they have big banners when a game comes out, or any of your game-specific stores? Is the marketing good there, or is it okay, or is it non-existent? Because I'm curious what steps they took there to kind of push it past the Wii in terms of its first year sales, because the Wii did well there in its first year, and we're hearing that the Switch did better than that. So if you could shed a little light for us in the comments, I am very curious. Iona says, Conviction and Blacklist should be remade for PS4 X1. Already played Conviction on the 360, but the screen tearing and low resolution at 540p aged not well at all. 1080p 60 frames per second PC's Ultra settings will be perfect, and yes, I own it on Uplay, but the PC port is horrible. So I think remasters play a very important role to get people caught up with some games, especially if you only have a PS4, you only have an Xbox One, and it's coming out and you haven't played the previous ones, you don't want to get a whole new system to play it. Remasters make a lot of sense there, right? I mean, some people see it as a quick cash grab. It kind of is, but I think it's also a good way to get people caught up on the series, the lore, things like that. In this case, though, Conviction is backwards compatible, at least on the Xbox One. On a Blacklist, I don't think it is yet, but Conviction, you can actually get the game, pop it in your Xbox One, or buy it on the store and play it. I'm not sure what kind of upgrades they've made, but it is at least playable there. Now, if they did a full remaster where they actually, updated the assets, things like that, in-game textures, and bumped it up to a good resolution like a 1080p at 60, like you're saying here, I'd be curious to see how good that would look, because Splinter Cell was always a good-looking game when it would first come out, but it does age. The PS2 and original Xbox games looked amazing. GameCube version looked amazing. And now we kind of go back and look at it and we're like, yeah, this is kind of dated now. But back then, when you had like the little things like the fan spinning and the light was actually affected by the fan when you're looking on the wall and like the shadow was brushing by, that was a big deal back then. That was like, wow, this is some serious tech going on here. It's not much now, I get it. But back then on the PS2, the Xbox, the GameCube, Splinter Cell was setting the tone for really visual fidelity back then. Thursday, we talked about a neat feature in the Switch version of Street Fighter Collection and went over the announcement for Shadow of the Tomb Raider coming later this fall. Vegeta says, Capcom can add whatever Street Fighter Collection features it wants. If it requires data to be downloaded to play a physical version, I'm not buying it. And this is the thing that Capcom pretty much has to live with or prove people wrong at this point. Okami is over 30 gigabytes on the PC. Are they putting that just on a cartridge? Maybe they get the file size down to under 16 gigabytes? Because they wouldn't even put both legacy collections on one cartridge. Are they going to put Okami, because we hear it's digital, I guess it's never going physical, and that's probably why. So Capcom at this point, yes, is known to be, I guess, cheap with cartridges. I guess they have a bottom line, and they don't want their cartridges cutting into that at this point. So it's the way it goes. They're fortunate Okami is going to be digital only, But when games like, for example, in the Street Fighter Collection, are they going to get that to fall within a cartridge's space, or are they going to make us download stuff even if we buy it physically? That's one of the issues with the Switch right now that people have pointed out. It has to do obviously with the cartridge itself being expensive and some just not available. But I'm hoping this gets resolved in the second to third year of the Switch going forward, to where those larger cartridges are available at a decent price and they can just cut out us having to download the game. It almost feels like there's no point in releasing it physically if you still have to download a majority of the game. And by majority, I mean more than half. Like LA Noire, you have to download quite a bit of data just to play the game past like the first level. So Capcom is going to have to live with that for a while after what they pulled with the Mega Man Legacy Collection and what we heard about, because at this point, it's up to them to get our confidence back at this point, as they kind of damaged it with that Legacy Collection. Finally, Friday went over the big event on Twitch when Ninja and Drake teamed up to play Fortnite, pulling in a high of over 600,000 concurrent viewers at one time. We also talked about an FMV game that was making its way to the Switch. Anton says, okay, what does FMV mean? So this is great because generally you can kind of tell who experienced the change to full motion video back with CDs in the early 90s, because before then we didn't really have access to commercially anyway, CDs, so a lot of stuff didn't take advantage of, in this case, full motion video, and that was a big deal when it first showed up. CDs allowed us to do that, and you even saw it when we went from stuff like the Sega Genesis, where very small amounts of things like full motion video were even possible, to then just making entire games on the Sega CD out of it completely. The CDI also did that. I remember that specifically. The 3DO, I believe, also did that. But I do remember the CDI used it a lot, and of course, the Sega CD used it a ton. Of course, PC games use it a lot too. A lot of people probably remember Night Trap on the Sega CD and PC, I believe, more than anything, because that's the entire game was that. There were a lot of really bad ones as well on the Sega CD, but basically, full motion video is what a lot of us know as cutscenes in general now. We kind of write them off as being not a big deal at all, but back then it was a really big deal. I remember if we would play something like a Final Fantasy, you'd be playing through it waiting for that next cutscene to play, because it was so cool to see that. When you have things like the 64 where it couldn't do it as well because of the cartridge limitations, it was just amazing to see that kind of stuff on PS1 at the time. And it's kind of just, it's taken for granted now, obviously, with hard drives that we have and massive Blu-ray discs and everything. But back then, full motion video, big deal. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave Week in Review today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today. Maybe you were around when FMVs or full motion videos really broke onto the scene, and you kind of experienced that magic when we went from not having any of that stuff in a game, and then you're buying PS1 discs, or maybe you really like the Sega CDs full motion video games. But I know a lot of us remember when the PS1 hit the scene and it was playing full on, in this case, if you bought Mega Man X4, the opening cutscene was like a full video. It was like, whoa, this is amazing. Also, let me know what you think about Smash, if it is coming out in September, or maybe it will fall to October. Do you think it's going to pretty much be intertwined with the online when it launches? I do think it is going to be a big selling factor, I should say, for that online service. Easy way to sell it. The people will get really into it if the online is robust and interesting, and they're going to Nintendo will not only get the money for the system, the money for Smash, but then of course a recurring $20 a year from you and everyone else who wants to play online with Smash. It seems like it just makes too much sense. Seems like everything just kind of fits together. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you come on by tonight, Spawncast, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys then.